Hi students, today's class is about tariff codes and CAD corrections. And we have, in some way or another, we have spoken about tariff codes and CAD corrections. I believe you saw some of this topic last semester, but we are going to reinforce those concepts on this slides. What is a tariff code? So under Chapter 99 of the Customs Tariff Book, it provides special provisions for certain goods under certain conditions to be imported to Canada under duty-free rate. The tariff code is the 4-digit we can see at tariff item level. Some examples that I can show to you is tariff item 9937. This tariff code will allow that certain costumes and parts and accessories designed and decorated to reflect an ethnocultural heritage when it's used for an ethnocultural group that requires those customs, they can come under free duty rate under MFN. Now, there's certain conditions for this to happen. First of all, it says that whatever group, ethno group is going to bring these goods must be at least of 5 people. Yeah, it's made a group of 5 people and 5 persons, sorry. Each of one have to be more than 18 years. Be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. They also ask that the group is a voluntary group, could be a non-profit, and the purpose of this group is to preserve that culture. And if the group has to is supported by a representative of that ethnic community to which it belongs. So let's say, and I'm going to declare myself not knowledgeable enough to know if this dressing that we see in the picture is what exact culture it is, but let's say it's from a certain region in India, and they form a dance group, which I believe, like in Toronto, there is a lot of people from that community, and one of them decide to open a dance group, right, to kind of show to their children or show to their community acts how the dances, traditional dances from their homeland. But let's say that community decided to import the costumes from India, and they want to bring the skirts, and that skirt is classified under 6204 5990. Yeah, we're gonna use tariff code 9937 combined with 6204 to be allowed to bring those skirts under free tariff. If we didn't use that tariff item code, this skirt would be assessed at 18%. 18% is the regular rate for a woven skirt classified under 6204 5990. Another example is, and I've spoken about this before because we saw it in week 4, I believe. If we have, if we want to use tariff code 9905, this code is specific for goods that are used during the Jewish Passover, right? And there's certain conditions. It says, for instance, that has to be imported during that period, like 2 months before the eve of Passover, and at the end of the last day of the Passover, that holiday. It also provides duty free, and it gives you a list of items that you can bring under this tariff code. The regional HS code for, let's say we were going to bring vinegar, yeah, which is part of the customs tariff, right, of the tariff book, of the tariff item. The HS code for vinegar is 2209000000. Other example will be if we use tariff code 9985. This is for ecclesiastical garment, vestment or accessories that can be used even to decorate religious buildings. So I just put an example of a Catholic priest. They would usually normally use like a shirt, yeah, a long sleeve shirt. And in this case, the HS code is 6105100010. But if I use 9985, it reduces the amount of duty, yeah, from 18%, it reduces down to 7.5. So it doesn't give them 100% free, but it's still a good reduction of duties. How do we apply the tariff code on the CAD form? To be able to benefit from the duty-free tariff code, the first thing we have to do is to ensure that the commodity satisfies all the conditions established in the customs tariff. Example, when we saw the skirt had to be brought for a cultural event of an ethno-cultural community. And even there was they had a requirement of the number of people that will be part of that community, ethno-cultural community association. It had to be a voluntary, almost like a charity type of community, non-profit community. Also, they said it had to be more than 18 years old, and they had to be Canadian resident or permanent residents. So there were conditions set in the customs tariff to be able to use that customs code, that tariff code. In the case of the vinegar, they said also that the vinegar has to be coming to Canada at least 2 months before the beginning of the Passover or at the end, or at least at the end of the Passover. They also gave you a list of products included in that tariff code. And the last example, they mentioned that it has to be garments for use of ecclesiastical function, right, or religious purposes. That's the first condition. Be sure that the commodity satisfies all those rules established in the customs tariff. The second will be to assign the commodity the 10-digit code from chapters 1 to 87. And we saw that below each commodity there's an HS code. That HS code belongs to chapters 1 to 87. And then in the CAD form, on field 58, the code from chapters 1 to 87, the 10-digit code will be typed, and on field 71 we're going to use the 4-digit tariff code. As an example, if I use the information for the skirt, I will be typing the tariff code from 1 to 87, the 6204599000 under field 58, and then under field 71, I will have the tariff code. And if we look into the amount of customs duties, I will notice it became 0 because I'm using this tariff code to be able to claim that duty free. And because it's India, there's no trade agreement. There's no, we can only use 002. Now, GST is still applicable, the 5%, and that's the only amount I'm going to be paying on this line. Yeah, and this is all obviously, I didn't use any foreign currency, so I didn't do an exchange rate. I just wanted you to look into how the fields are posted into the CAD portal. Topic on this presentation will be corrections and adjustments. There are different reasons why an importer or a customs broker will look into making a correction or adjustment request in the CARM portal. The first one is because they want to self-correct. Yeah. So as being compliant with CBSA means to be able to come forward and declare to CBSA when a mistake has been made, either in value of the good, in HS code, or in origin. It could also happen that it's an amendment because the company went through an internal audit or an audit by CBSA, and the audit has mandated that those entries have to be corrected. An importer wants to apply for a refund. Yeah, let's say they went ahead with the entry, but it turns out that at the time of the entry they did not have a CUSMA certificate, and now they have it, and now they want to recall or recover all those duties paid. Or it just was a clerical or a typo mistake, and also they want to be able to correct. Now, the adjustment could affect duties and taxes paid, and that could be a balance that is due to the importer, yeah, or a balance that is due to the receiver general. The receiver general is a way of calling the government, like it's like Finance Canada, and also could be a revenue neutral, meaning that there's no change in the amount of duties and taxes. It's just that the importer wants to be compliant and they want to make the corrections because that's what the Customs Act mandates. Like I mentioned on the previous slide, it's a mandate from CBSA to make corrections. Under the Customs Act. For example, under 3221 of the Customs Act, when an importer or owner of a good has claimed a tariff treatment and has reason to believe that the declaration of origin for good is incorrect, they have to make a correction on the entry, and they must do it 90 days from the date that they had that reason to believe, and they must pay any amount of duties and taxes that have been owed, that they owe to the government. Another legislation reference will be 741C11, and this is another way, like this is another example. This will be when the importer did not claim a tariff treatment, but now has reason to believe that the declaration of origin is good. And then in Canada, the importers have 4 years to claim any duties and duties and taxes to CBSA and CRA, and that is what they call a refund of duty paid. It's important to notice that the GST can be collected back as an ITC and input tax credit, and it's not going to be paid through CBSA. Now, certain changes came with CARM. First of all, there's something now called the correction period. And the correction period is when the importer can make changes at interest-free through the CARM portal before the payment due date. And this process is auto-approved. That means that they don't need to present to an officer. They might add some supporting documents, but it's basically an auto-approved process. The adjustment period is, in other hand, when it's after the due date, yeah, and now this is more similar to what we had before in something called a B2. In this case, the change of the new version of the CAD is subject to approval by CBSA. Using as example provided by GHY International in their webpage, if a good was released on the 6th of, this was October last year, and then the CAD is due, right? We have to submit to CARM by the 13th because it's 5 business days. A correction can be made down up to the payment due date. Yeah, correction. The officer will just not look into this entry, will be out of proof. But there's a little trick here. If the correction is done before the 24th, then that correction will show on the statement of account. But if it's done after or during the 25th of the month up to the payment date, the correction will still be approved, but it will not show on the statement of account. In the case that the correction was not, wasn't possible to be done before payment date, and it was done after payment date, then that's when we enter the adjustment period. Yeah, and this could take up to 2 to 3 months to get it resolved. Yeah, different from the correction that is out of proof. Now going back to the GST, like I said, the CBSA will accept adjustment requests and render decisions for GST where GST has been overpaid, but CBSA will not issue a credit for GST. The importers will have to go through the process of the input tax credit directly with the Canada Revenue Agency. And that is done through the portal under CRA's website. And you have to be registered under CRA, and if you don't, there's a special form to do that. Now, on the CAD form, to be able to claim a correction or do a correction, the importer has to establish the reason code. And under the D memo that I'm going to show you, and there are different reason codes, but one that I want to put you as an example, if I use reason code R2741C11, this is to request a refund when an importer wants to change from not having duty tariff treatment free to a CUSMA or a SIFTA or a Chile tariff treatment. Yeah, so this will be basically coming from MFN, for example, to tariff treatment code 10. Yeah, so it came from MFN, and now I want to change it to, let's say, USD. So from 02 to 10, sorry. Another example of a recent code, we have one of a correction. Let's say you want to make a correction because they noticed that the free trade agreement that was used was not valid, and now they want to go from, let's say, UST, yeah, UST, which is CUSMA, to MFN, yeah, because you or the importer has the obligation of making corrections when they have reason to believe that they have failed to provide the correct documentation. Yeah, so this is a correction. Now, there are certain documents that must be provided in case of an adjustment to CBSA. If it's tariff classification, well, they will need to show some technical specification, ingredient list. If it's country of origin, they will need to provide a certificate of origin. If it's quantity, well, they should show a packing list. If it's value, it will be a commercial invoice. And if it's a free trade agreement, then what is the free trade agreement certificate? They have to show it. They have to attach it into the CARM portal. Now, this is the end of the presentation. I invite you to go to the Blackboard and complete I call it the in-class practice, but it's the class practice. It's something just to help you to navigate chapter 99 and the recent codes under the D memo. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the day.